I think so. Everybody got their schedule. Public Works is first. Good morning. I'm going to call the Nueces County Commissioners Court to order. I'd like to certify that 4 members of the court are present. We do have a quorum. We're meeting today in a budget workshop, the second budget workshop here in Commissioners Court, 3rd floor of the Nueces County Courthouse. And our first up to hear from is Public Works. Good morning, Glenn. I'll now certify that all members of the court are present, and it's 8:30. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. The first department we're going to talk about is the buildings and I will just simply go over the changes to the various ones. First one, in courthouse security, under budget category 2060, we're asking for an increase of $2,500. And what that...
Which department number are you starting with? 1400?
I'll start with whichever one you want.
No, just tell me where you start.
1305.
Okay.
1305. That's, yeah, courthouse security.
Well, we don't have 1305.
I have it.
Are you talking about back?
Courthouse security.
Oh, no, we'll go through that later.
Oh, okay, okay.
First one I got is 14.
Okay, how about
Turn your mic on, Glenn, please.
There you go. 1400. We don't have any changes. Yeah, we don't have any changes, which we've got 1460.
Let me ask y'all, just kind of explain to me here.
Your mic, Commissioner?
What exactly does 1400 General Parish County buildings do?
The 1400 is just like our old general expenses, like maintenance, those little maintenance that they do here at the courthouse and do over at the jail. It's little pieces
Okay,
of,
so
yeah.
I guess my question is, it's costing us $224,000 to spend $90,500 worth of repairs. There's something wrong with this picture.
That is really the actual expenses that, is incurring in that.
$90,500 and it costs us $224,000 to get it done?
Well, that's not the only place that stuff's funded. You've got the building superintendent department, which is, get your budget stuff.
What are we looking at?
Number
Where
we
we at?
1,400. I mean, your total budget, your proposed budget, or the budget for 2011, you're looking at $224,000 is what you want for the department. And everything in that $224,000 except for $90,500 is personnel and benefits. And I don't understand how you can justify, well, how much is $90,500 less, I mean, 224, 242 less 90,500, $125,000 to spend $90,000? There's something wrong here.
Well, those workers are, let's say, go back to, in time, I'm not sure how these departments originally got set up. Basically, in the courthouse here, and Peggy, you've been here longer than any of us, but there's 1,500 and 1,500 and 1,570, all three of those basically are courthouse departments. And these workers, those 3 workers do everything in the courthouse and jail as well as along with the other departments. So I'm really, a good explanation of why this 1,400 is not wrapped into 1,500 or 1,570. I don't really know. You probably should look at combining those together. I don't know how they originally were set up.
What little light I can shine or shed on this is there were, say for example, mechanical maintenance, the air conditioner maintenance contracts were originally coded to, I think, 1,400. And then he just used these separate departments to help him manage major contracts. You know, you had the elevator, all the elevator contracts. You had the air conditioner contracts. You had the, and then general repairs, just sending out workers to do general repairs, buying, where he focused on buying, you know, they had stores down there, building supplies inventory. All of that went through one department just to help him manage. Well, somehow or another, between Mr. Sullivan's predecessor and Mr. Sullivan, that, I think, of all of that got changed. And to tell you the truth, I'm not really too sure where everything is being coded, because it has changed back and forth, and I think that is a good question, Commissioner McComb. It needs to be reestablished and firmly fixed, because it really makes analysis, you know, going back on historical comparisons, difficult.
Well, I mean, the judge and I were on a board at one time. At one time, this board had a couple $1 million worth of grants, and we had the administrative cost. And then the grants diminished and diminished and diminished to the point that the administration of the grants, which was to go to help people with illness, I mean, we were spending more money on the administration than we were getting medical treatment to the people.
Okay, I understand
Finally,
that.
just shut it down. We just said, give all of the money to another institution that's already providing medical service, and put that 90% of the money that you're spending on administration into medical services, because they already got their administration in place, and they can spend the money and get it to the people. I mean,
Well, this isn't really.
this may be just simply an organization, but if somebody walking in as dumb as I am can notice that out of $224,000, only $90,500 is going to services, and the rest of it's going to salaries and benefits, there's something wrong with that picture. Am I
Well,
somewhere I'm?
what you're saying though is, those three boys are going around there fixing things every
Okay,
day.
are their salaries, overtime, benefits, all that sort of stuff reflected in those departments also?
No,
No.
no. It's
So
only
you have
there.
zero salaries in those departments,
Correct.
and that will show up later as we get through this process?
Mhm.
Well, let's see if they do. Okay. I mean, just be the way it's shown. I mean, it all may be very legitimate, but it just something looks wrong with the picture at first shot. Am I wrong?
Okay.
All right.
But, you know, if you have $90,000, and you're talking about that item 5260,
Yes.
and how is that different? You know, you got your salaries, but also within there, you also got some, somebody needs some tile put in, you're gonna take that from, you know, you may take it from that 90,000, but there's some jobs that you are gonna be sending your kids out to put up a wall someplace
Well,
and do it in-house.
yeah, that's true. You really got to look at 1,500, 1,570, and 1,400 as a whole, because all those monies are essentially
But
we
I
look at it
agree,
as
no.
the same pot, and it's confusing to us, too.
Yeah,
So,
even I don't know, it was like
We
scattered.
need to do away with 1,400. I mean, it's just, why break it up if it's not helping you separate or manage?
Well,
But at one time, I guess my point is, at one time, it was, you know, certain expenses went there, and it was designated for a purpose, but I think that's changed. And that's okay.
I think they use that for the upkeep of the building, the grounds, the mowing and painting.
Why don't you all,
we'll do that,
here by Glenn, one of you and the other one pull up a chair right here? And I think that would, get another chair, and please, if you will, and come up, all of you, and But this is going to
Yeah,
be show and tell, we might as well have all
When you
all
go
of
to-
you up here where we
Yeah,
can hear
when
you.
you go to 1570, which is building
To get you,
super,
there's
Wait a
a
minute.
chair in the back. There's no
Uh,
reason for you to
Tony's
stand,
getting
please. There you go.
1570?
There you go.
yeah, when you look at 1570, that budget's like $1,000,003 something. And then when you go to 1500 mechanical maintenance, if I'm reading this right, it's $3,500,000.
Right.
So you really got to look at all three of those together.
But my question is, and that was what I said.
Thank you.
If you look at the 96,000, in other words, the salaries and benefits and all that, does that reflect in the other departments? And the answer was no.
No.
I mean, if you look at 1570, which you just showed us, that shows us $230,000 worth of salaries. So there is,
There are salaries in there, but it's not the same people that
They're
are
not the
over in
same
the other.
people.
so my question is, the people that are in 1400, it takes $230,000, well, let's see, what? 224 less 9,500, what's that number? $175,000? It takes $175,000 worth of labor to spend $90,000? I can spend $90,000.
Commissioner, that's not, I mean,
That's
not-
not a correlation.
that's not,
It's, what is the product being produced as opposed to what you're spending, because, the product that you're producing, they come up with a list of items, and you say, well, we're going to put these out on the open market, this is what it's going to cost you, you'd have a significantly higher number there.
I mean, we look at, they're the, if you come in to work, they're the guys that are in the morning, open the place up, doing the flag, doing this, doing that, mowing the yard. A lot of it's just, they're doing just manual labor that doesn't require a lot of materials.
This 1,400,
it was-
there's no administration in 1,400, this is just for labor, right?
And I
So
think, yeah.
really, if you put those I don't know how many workers there are, 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many, how many workers are we talking about, 1,400?
There's three there, and I think,
Okay, if they put them in another, like, say, 1,500, where there is administration, will they work okay?
well, as Yolanda said originally, and I believe the original intent, and this is general building repairs, and the other one's mechanical repairs, so this was just general keep up, upkeep
General
things.
repairs, the
and repairs.
1400 basically,
Please, you might.
the 1,400 basically does the mowing, all the grounds upkeeps, painting that they do inside the courthouse, just general repairs. And the mechanical maintenance is where they do mainly the fixing of the chillers, the generators, the HVACs. That's when they get to the elevators, where they get to the bigger mechanical items. General repairs is just, what they do here in the courthouse and at the jail, the mowing, painting, fixing
I understand,
doors.
there's a lot of things to do, believe me, I understand, you got a lot of things to do, because we've got a big area to cover.
That's how we separate it.
But I'm just saying, is there a supervisor in this 1,400?
There is one lead worker.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. So one of those persons is a lead.
these used to be, this is where your carpenters, right?
Yes, the
Yeah.
I mean,
carpenters.
it's basically your
No, I agree,
carpenter
there's a lot of work
department,
to
and
do.
they don't,
I'm not-
Okay.
the big
Does
jobs they
this-
contract out, but for the little stuff, so that there's not a whole lot of material.
Every time someone in this courthouse, an elected official calls Glenn, I need pictures hung, I need somebody to fix something, these are the guys you send up to fix it.
Right.
Or in the jail, same thing. And you get in line, believe me.
Do these also cover the outlying buildings, like my building?
There are times we have to send these people out to do something, and of course, they're funded from here. But for the most part, if we're doing janitorial work at the other buildings and groundskeeping, most of that's contracted and be charged to the other buildings.
Like the people at the Calderon building, the janitors and those people?
Yeah, they're funded out of the Calderon.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at it, each one of our individual buildings have the same disparity if you take the utilities out of those buildings. If you go to the Poston building, we're spending $27,000 for salaries and benefits, and we're only putting $3,500 in now for other stuff. And so it's basically the labor that's there, and they're doing the janitorial work and the small things, but they're not. Now, when you look at the overall budget, it's $52,000, but that's because the utilities are included in those buildings, and in the courthouse, the utilities are over in a different department. And so every one of our buildings where we have maintenance workers there, there's not a, it's more labor than it is materials and other supplies.
I mean, I understand that it just, maybe just a different way it's presented, I don't know. Let's go on.
Okay,
It confuses me too, sir, if it's,
All right.
all right.
it's
So we're
any
back
help.
on, where'd we go now?
I was going to talk about 1460, if that's all right, but I'll take them whatever order you want.
1460,
That's-
1440, that's next in line.
I think what Glenn is doing is just addressing the ones
All
that
I'm doing is
changes.
hitting the ones that we're making any change to. 1440, we're not asking anything.
1440?
1460,
all right, posts and building is okay.
that's fine, we're not
All right,
asking any changes.
all right, Bill Bodie building is okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, now we're at the Barnes
Yeah.
facility. Okay,
Juvenile-
thank you.
Juvenile justice. Okay, under 1460, we were asking two increases. One, under 5260, which is maintenance, repairs, building and grounds. There are some recurring expenses that we have been funding through other key codes in there. And it has to do with maintenance of the chillers, the alarm systems, there's sprinkler systems over there, and fire extinguisher inspection. And of course, we have a contract to replace air filters over there. The whole thing is $20,000. Those are expenses we incur right now. We're just trying to put them in 5260 so we can get a better accounting of them. Then also under 1460, under 5410, which is other services and charges, we're asking for a $200 increase, and that's to pay for our annual boilers, the licensing and fees that go with that annual licensing of the boilers. Again, these are expenses that we're already paying right now. And that's the only change we've asked for in 1460.
So you're moving them from one budget to this one?
Well-
Or you don't have them in the budget?
There's not a budget item right now, but yet we're still having to pay for it. We're just trying to get it organized a little bit better. And that's all we have there. The next one on my list is 1500, which is the mechanical maintenance.
Well, let's take
Sure.
1465, no change?
No change,
All right. 1490, no change?
no change.
Anybody got any questions as we go through, holler. 1510, no change?
No, sir.
1,500.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 1500 is next, and nothing?
No, I have something on that one.
Well, all right, let's take 1500,
1500, all right.
please.
Under 5311, that's the computer software services and maintenance. This is a new item that we have not had before, and y'all may recall sometime back, we had bought software program to do work orders within building maintenance. And there's updates that go with that stuff, and Tony, if you could explain in detail what we're talking about here.
Sure. The work order software, TMA, has an annual, I think $5,900 a year is the annual maintenance cost of that software, which it's pretty pricey, but it keeps us on board for upgrades and technical support. So they provide our Tier 1 support. When we have a problem here, I'm able to call them and
What was
get
the
the
amount?
problem
I'm sorry.
resolved. It's right under $6,000 a year.
Yeah.
For that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's basically the cost of doing business to keep the work order software operating. That's what it is.
See, Mr. Sullivan, I see that as an administrative cost, and I would have put that into 1570 underneath Building Superintendent Department. I mean, do you feel strongly it needs to be in this budget?
Well, because it's for the work order, by the way, it's a new item, this is.
Okay. Well, no, I think
Speak to the mic.
no, because it's for the work orders, and we kind of want to keep it in the mechanical maintenance maintenance department, just so that we'll know that that's a recurring, that we're going to be doing every year.
We'll fund it wherever you would like to fund it.
Okay, we'll talk about it later in the workshop.
You know, as we go forward here, there are more and more departments that are having larger and larger IT expenditures. So maybe at some point, it may be smart to have a separate IT bucket for each department, whether it's Public Works, HR, whatever.
I agree.
And that would allow us to filter all of this stuff out of this into one
Actually, you can
IT
rule
bucket.
economies of scale on that if you do similar softwares where you can get EULAs that actually are enterprise level. That's one thing I noticed we don't do here.
Yes.
So it's, Microsoft Office and those kind of products, if
Yeah,
people are budgeting
because
for that.
what you may discover, Tony, is exactly what you're saying. You have several departments doing the same thing, and we can go negotiate those deals on an enterprise-wide basis
Exactly.
and save money.
Yeah, good case in point, Glenn, that this past year, we had, I think, 4, 5, 6 copies of AutoCAD, very specialized software
Yes.
for engineering, and, we bought in, there was individual license purchase over the years, and we went in and created a group license, 5 concurrent for 3 costs, so we end up saving, 33% of the costs, the annual costs.
Yep.
So you run that over time, we're actually, saving quite a bit of money. So if you
Absolutely.
do that on a larger scale, obviously it has major
That
benefits.
really makes a lot of sense, Mike.
So now we're having a budget of itself, is what Commissioner, what you're saying? Just one itemized budget?
Each department would have its own IT expenditure budget.
Okay,
So
yeah.
the thing, like this
1560.
example would be
PMA, we are.
in their
Yeah.
Public Works IT budget.
It could-
Now, how you intermesh that with what Mr. Biddle does is, another question, but his IT functions are, most of the time are very broad and specific to the whole.
Yeah, 'cause I think the
County.
library does the same thing, they have IT at the library, so
Yes.
they could, you need to separate it and see where it is, yeah. That's a good idea.
But if you've got 5 different departments using, like Tony's example, an application, and what you find is that you have 5 licenses, well, very seldom are you going to have all 5 of those in use at one time. You'll have some concurrent usage, and you can go check that. You can determine what that is, and if you're on an average daily basis only using 3 of those licenses per day, then you can buy a concurrent license for, say, 4 licenses, you save 1, and you spread that cost out across the entire county.
And if you have a single body looking at that from an enterprise level,
Yeah.
they could begin to make that observation and harness it in and be able to get enterprise licensing. That's exactly right.
But it's just going to get larger and larger as we go forward.
Yeah. This same TMA program that we're talking about, we use in building maintenance, where I guess you would say there's a module of it that we're beginning to start using over in our fleet maintenance facility to really getting a handle on some of those costs and functions over there with the vehicles.
Just some clarification, we're on the 1,500, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're adding this 5311?
5311, yes. $6,200 is,
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. I heard
Yeah.
58, 59, but on my paper it says 62, so what number we need to plug in there?
I was just projecting it that if they increase, like, I added like 3% increase because each year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, last
Because
year.
each year, they always change.
So the 6,200 is the number you wanted
6,200 is what we had asked for.
to, okay. All right, that's all.
Okay. What's next?
The next one on my list is 1545, which is Keach Library, but,
All right, can I do 1510?
Sure.
No change.
yes,
1520 Bishop Building? No
no
change.
change.
1530 Port Aransas? No change. 1540?
That-
Lots of change.
No.
Well, we got a lot going on over there.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay. All right. Keach.
Okay, Keach, we had asked for a change, but we got to looking at it, and really, we're gonna take that back. So even though your packet may show an increase in 5,300, we're going to ask the auditor to strike that.
I think we did that this year, didn't we?
Yes, yes.
So that's your take.
It's already been done.
It's been
We-
done, yeah. I was going to say.
We didn't pick it up until this morning. So, really nothing there. The next one on my list is the medical examiners, 1565.
Well, let's 1550,
No, sir.
nothing. Is this the old aggregate building?
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, it is. And
Okay.
when we get back to the budget, I think we can take a look at a proposal of how we.
All right, medical examiner?
Medical examiner, there's one item, we're asking, under 5260, which is maintenance repairs to the grounds. We're asking for increase in $7,000. And again, that's an expense that's already being paid for. It's the recurring expense for janitorial services. Like I said, it's already being paid for, but we would like to see it in 5260.
I think when he says it's already been paid for, during the year, he has to transfer for some of his other budgets to
Right.
cover this, so.
Right.
So that's
Now,
the reason that
it
we're.
cuts out that little exercise of shifting money around.
Okay.
I hate to ask
Question?
somebody quick.
No,
I'm-
please.
I'm sorry I'm so stupid, but if you look there on your 1565, this 5260, you're talking about maintenance and stuff. 2010, actual is 31,000. So the next year, budgeted 8,500, but then you spent 48,000. Next year, we budgeted 85. Are we going to spend 40,000? I mean, why don't we budget based on our historical, or is there some reason we're doing this?
Which one you looking at?
5260 and medical examiner 1565.
Oh, do you know why that?
You're asking $7,000 increase.
Probably during that time, they have like major
Well,
repairs
you're
that they
right.
have done.
We did,
We're
Yeah.
budgeting only this much and we're spending 48.
Yeah, they probably have done something,
I would, what I would say is, when Glenn gets to, well, we went there already, but in 1,500, we do have a line item there that's listed for major repairs for outlying buildings that he transfers money to do things.
Okay.
And so there was, when the expenditures are higher, that wasn't because we had a budget, but he moved it from that
That was a
department
special-
here.
special
They did a
event.
fence, or I know you did a fence
We've
over
done a
there.
lot of fence work over there.
So
and-
that's what it is.
Budget for normal stuff, and then you transfer for.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
emergency. Okay.
Yeah, and again, that's why you see these recurring expenses we keep trying to shift around.
Okay.
Undoubtedly, we think we need to budget for those because we can put a handle on it, but
All right.
for those odd ones, we don't have any way to do it.
All right, I have 1580.
Nothing,
Well, let's
1570.
I'm sorry, 1570, good. Thank you.
That's the building superintendent. And under 5,300 professional services, we were asking for 15,000, and this is one of those we are trying to project a little bit. We've overrun that this year. Now, how to determine when we need those professional services is hard to say, but we've been spending a lot of money to do things like testing on whether or not something's got asbestos in it, the testing and the remediation, and that's an abatement, and that's where we keep running into problems. So just based on our historical usage, we were asking for 15,000 increase in that particular item.
And I probably have to look at that closer, Commissioner Judge, too, because of the ADA.
Yes.
When we.
Oh, yeah, that's
We
what
gotta
we
think
didn't even
about
try to
that coming
factor.
forward. We don't know what we have, but
Yeah.
we're certainly going to have some work,
Yeah,
professional services to go along with that.
Yes.
and that's all we
That's
had
all.
under 1570.
All right. Okay. 1580,
No, sir.
excuse me, 1590.
No, sir.
Oh,
Did we have substantial damage out there we need to worry about to that building? That wind?
I'm sorry.
Anybody? Mike, do you remember?
Which building?
On Hilltop facility, was there anything out there that major repair or anything as a result of that wind? Do you remember?
And that's under Edwards' budget,
Right.
so.
No, I
Yep.
always get confused between Edwards' budget and engineer budget, so that's an inland park, okay,
Right.
all right. Okay, yeah, I just can't remember who gets what, so Edward gets that one. Okay,
There's a big glass entrance, as you probably remember, as you go in the front of the Hilltop building, and it blew all that glass out, all of it. And so we're looking at deciding whether or not we're going to replace that, or maybe just brick it up and
probably be better.
put a door back, the glass really serves no function, so we're thinking maybe it might be
probably
better
the
to brick it up.
But that's a different pot.
Yes, sir.
I always get the pots confused. Okay, 1760,
No, sir, but we do have something on 1740.
okay.
That's McKinsey Annex.
Okay, I don't have a 1740. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I got it. It's out of order. All right.
And again, we're looking at 5260, that's maintenance and repairs. We're asking for an increase of $20,000 in that item. And again, this has to do with the recurring expenses that we can't identify, where we've got inspections on the chiller, we've got annual inspections on the fire alarm systems, the sprinkler systems, the fire extinguishers, and again, the filter replacements and all the HVAC. Same discussion we've had before. These are just simply recurring expenses that we know are going to hit us, we're already paying for, and we would like to see them put under 5260.
Do we bid these sprinkler system contracts out for the whole county or on a case-by-case basis?
They've done it on a case-by-case basis now. Should we bid it out? I don't know how much money we're talking about. There's only 2 or 3 facilities.
At the courthouse,
that we have
McKinsey Annex,
them. We don't have any here. It's the jails is where we have them.
jail, then you've got Hilltop has a sprinkler.
Oh, not to my knowledge, but they might.
No, they don't. We have a fire
So you've got juvenile justice, you've got McKinsey Annex, and the jail.
I think the only sprinklered buildings we have in the county are where we have either people, prisoners, or detention centers.
That's
And those are required by jail standards.
Right, that's correct.
I just wondered if there was some economy of scale of getting, to bid those out.
We use the same ones for all of them. You just issue one PO a year.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all done under one PO.
Okay. Okay,
All right.
And it's not a huge amount of money.
yeah.
And, sir, that's all I have on buildings.
1760,
No, sir.
Let me, just before we leave the buildings then, the rest of them will be at the 1700s, I think will be Edwards, but Glenn's budget numbers are going to come down in the utilities areas with Peggy, and we're all going to have to work together on that, but with the coming year with the efficiencies that we got from new system, so these are really reflected numbers you had from last year yet. And so ultimately, that money, the savings that we're getting out of utilities are going to go from here, his budget here, into paying for the debt. So when we get to the finalized budget, they'll be a little different there.
that's the plan, right?
That's the plan, Judge.
That's the plan. Okay.
Well, I'll just throw another comment in there. Year-to-date, when you look at, in general, the big one in the courthouse, they've spent 25% of the utilities over what we have budgeted. Now, we haven't hit the high part of the year yet, but still, we've had, through the first 6 months, we spent 25% rather than 50%. So,
Good.
I mean, we're, I think Peggy's found that looking at this stuff, we're seeing savings in the energy that's going to, just on our records. And now we're in the formal monitoring, and so they have to prove it all up. So.
Well, this is going to be the real test.
Yes, sir.
June, July, and August is going to be the test. Now, part of our savings is going to be eaten up by passing out the fans to everybody when it doesn't work.
Hot flash is not included.
Yeah. Be careful. Okay, here we go. We're about to get off course here.
Okay. The schedule shows the first department would be 911, but we have no changes to it. That's 5,200. We are asking for a change to the next one, which is 5220. That's the environmental enforcement. 5220.
Right. Okay.
Here, Mike, Commissioner.
Yeah, Mike.
Okay. This is for our code enforcement, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we're now staffed up back to 2 individuals for that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Glenn, have you looked at or thought about it all about essentially those 2 positions are the same level.
Right.
And if we hired somebody and they stayed in that job 20 years, there is really no place for advancement.
There's no way to go. Yes, sir.
Okay. Should we look at creating a step, like you would do for any department in this building, to give those folks an opportunity? So in other words, you might have a lead code enforcement officer,
yeah.
Or, and I'm just making those titles up, but
yeah.
It just seems to me that in most departments there is opportunities for growth, and in this one we have none.
You're absolutely right. Now, whether you create a lead position or not, chief of police, if you would,
right?
The 2 officers essentially do the same job.
Right.
However, now that you bring it up, their training and things that we have them do, if you're just a normal deputy constable out there, you have that T-close training that everybody has to go through, and we have to provide that for our officers. But we also have them take a lot of training through, Department of Health Services? One of the state agencies that deals with the code enforcement issues. So they do a lot of work with them. So our folks have to have more training than a normal deputy constable. So there is some rationale in my mind anyway that maybe we need to look at some different level. Okay. And it would certainly make them happy. It wouldn't bother us
I
at
agree
all.
with Commissioner Posey, because, I thought when you hired somebody, I never knew that there was no stepping cross. But if we'd here 15 years and you hire somebody off the street,
right,
it makes same kind of money as I do. I said, wait a minute, I've been here 15 years,
Well, if you had
yeah,
which is kind of our case now, you have a code enforcement officer who has several years of experience, and we just hired a brand-new person who is at
Yeah.
a completely different level.
and yes,
But there is that's the continuance pay
Takes care of part of that.
Well,
the ones at step 3 and the others at step 1, it's not a huge thing, but,
Yeah.
but we get that we really get that in
Every department.
all your
Yeah.
positions that are like
Yeah.
positions, if somebody's been here a long time, like Josie here was a million years as assistant over here.
Yeah.
But the only difference really was the continuance pay from the other people just come right on new.
Yeah.
So I think unless there's a justification to being one of the supervisor a little bit higher, classification and personnel rules wise, it's hard to make a case
Yeah.
to separate them out. And
I think if you were to increase the professional skills required for that position, such as maybe making one of those positions eligible to be a professional sanitarian, to where when they go out and inspect a septic tank, and, a lot of times, I know we work in conjunction with the health department, and there's a lot of health issues involved that a registered sanitarian can address that are not being able to address. You're looking at mainly unsightly situations that may or may not be health related.
Yeah.
And you have a a registered sanitarian that can work not only here, but also in conjunction with the health department to interface, and, because right now, sometimes you're having to call the health department to go over there.
Yes, sir, that's right. They accompany.
And see if those RVs are dumping or whether they've got adequate, so, just something to throw out there if you're.
Well, yeah, you make a good point, and again, we have one officer that is a registered code enforcement person. So he, not only is he a peace officer, he's also registered in code enforcement.
Thing is certified
Jessica give
environmental too, isn't he, Glenn?
I'm sorry?
He's certified for environmental too, right?
Well, that environmental certification is for the code enforcement. And it requires additional training, continuous education, and that's kind of what we were asking in these slight increases in a couple of budget items to take care of some of that. But Commissioner Pusley makes a good point in that, if these folks work for a constable, then they have a hierarchy there where they have sergeants and
Right.
and the chief and on up, where in my department they really have no way to move, and how you want to go about that.
I have one question.
We can certainly
Both
do
of them
it.
in the field together,
Yeah.
and there's this issue that comes up, and so you're not around,
Mhm.
or somebody's not around, who makes the decision? A senior officer would probably have to make that decision. If one of them was a senior officer,
Well,
I'm
and
just
that's
saying.
true. That's true.
So that's where some of the responsibilities will come
Yeah.
to.
Well, for example, if they were, instead of working for Glenn, let's say our code enforcement worked for the sheriff, and we just used two of his deputies to do our code enforcement, they would then be eligible for the different position levels
Absolutely.
like you're
Sure.
talking about.
Absolutely.
Versus when you move them over now,
Yeah.
they're locked in forever.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right.
So, anyway, something kind of food for thought.
Let's see. I guess I didn't talk about any of the proposed changes to that budget. We're asking for two things. One, in 5210, which is the office expense and supplies. Several years ago, we bought a license for a system where they can use to track down people, if you would. It's called LexisNexis. It's a search engine used by law enforcement. We only have one user right now. We need to add the second officer so that she can use it. It's $1,680. We're asking for that increase under 5210. And then 5540 under travel, we're asking for a $1,000 increase. And again, what happens, like I explained, they not only have to take TCLOS training, which for the most part they can get around here, they also have to do training because of the code enforcement end of it. So we tend to deplete that budget every year, or that key code, I should say. And that's the only two changes we're asking there.
Are your vector control people staying up to date on all their certifications and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
going through training?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of the folks that is in the department downstairs, one of his duties is to track all our training, whether it's the vector control or for the officers or the engineers training or in any other training that we do for the folks out in the field. So we try to keep a pretty tight handle on it. Like I said, that's all I've got under that. The next one on the list is 3092, which is vector control, and we're not asking for any changes there.
Okay.
So that leaves Road and Bridge and Engineering. And under 120, which is Road and Bridge, under 5270, that's where we do our road material, our rock and our base and oil. We're asking for a pretty good-sized budget increase, and Judge, you had asked me some time back about the increases,
Right.
and that's in here. The flex base has gone up $1.60 a ton. Oil has gone up about 27 cents a gallon, and those are the two big ones. Now, the other materials that we use have also gone up, but it, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't make that big a hit on that budget. But those two items are hurting us pretty bad. In fact, last year, middle of summer, before we pretty much had to start scaling back on our construction operation because we just absolutely ran out of material. And we may get there again this year. The only thing that's saving us this year, and it's not a good thing, we're 15 people short in Road and Bridge right now because they've all gone to work in the Eagle Ford Shale. And we're not the only ones having the same problem. I spoke with one of the big highway contractors in the area. They're losing people to the same thing, going to the oil field.
Haas has lost a lot of.
Yeah, Bay is the one I talked to. And we're all sharing the same problems and just simply can't get people to apply. So we're short people, and that's slowed our production down a little bit. But when you look at those cost increase in material, then that's why we're asking for so much money in that item.
Glenn, this is probably a good chance for us to discuss this a little bit. A couple of the commissioners have asked me in the past about how we allocate or prioritize the various road projects, because it's centralized into you,
Yes,
rather than having the old commissioners do their roads. And would you mind running through that process again? Because I think you just hit on a big part of it.